Sounded like a scripted effect. I love
know.
that.
You're welcome. He's here all night, guys.
Perfect. So welcome everyone. I'm Amanda from One More Page Books, where we are going live with the delightful Erin Hahn and her background rooster.
Yeah, yep. Ranger Rick is there just to entertain us.
What else do you need?
I know, right?
Does Ranger Rick, is he the lone rooster in your area, or does he have rooster friends?
No, he is we have 14 hens and one rooster. So he is the only, I mean, you don't really know, there he is. You don't really know what you're going to get when you order all your chickens. And then, right around like 16 weeks, all of a sudden he starts doing that. And you're like, oh, we have a rooster.
And you only want one rooster, right? That's the ideal?
Ideally, yeah, because I guess they fight each other. So it's really good to have one because he'll like protect all the ladies. But if you have more than that, they start competing. Yeah, there he goes.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And if you hear weird honking, that's my end.
Awesome.
And the roosters are your end. The honking is from the restaurant next door's curbside pickup, which gets a little backed up. And your rooster is from nature.
Oh, wonderful. We're just joining it all together.
Exactly. I would trade with you in a heartbeat. Although I did get food from them beforehand. It is Chase and Tails, which is where Erin and I ate the last time that she was here in Virginia.
I do remember.
Yeah. So why don't we start off? Erin, do you want to just tell us a bit of, well, actually, I'll start off with my introduction. I said I would. I wrote it down. I got distracted by the rooster. All right, everyone. So here we go. Erin Hahn spent the first half of her life daydreaming in a small town in northern Illinois. She fell in love with words in college when she wrote for the campus paper, covering everything from drag shows to ice fishing, and took way too much liberty with a history essay on the bubonic plague, which probably seems like more relevant now. Take that, professors.
Yeah. Talk about irony. Here we go.
She started writing her own books when her little sister gave her shade about a country music-themed Twilight fanfic, but the joke is now on her because she writes swoons for a living. She married her own YA love interest, who she met on her first day of college, which I'm obsessed with, always, and she has 2 kids who are much cooler than she ever was at her age, lives in Michigan, as you can see by the background, Michigan, and has a cat, Gus, who plays fetch, and a dog, June, who does not. So, round of applause, everyone in your homes, for the delightful Erin Hahn. I can sense it. I can tell that they're doing it.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
So, Erin, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm sad I'm not with you in person this time, but this works.
I know. Well, this way we'll be like really geared up for the next book.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. We're gonna do like a full country music style tour for the next one.
Please, that would be super fun. I miss seeing the country right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I can get that. I keep having dreams where I'm just like, what if I went anywhere else?
Just literally anywhere.
Just anything besides the strip of like concrete between my apartment and the bookstore.
And the grocery store. I don't ever want to see a grocery store ever again. It's so sad. That's the only place I go.
Do you go to the same grocery store every time, or do you mix up your grocery stores?
I try.
Do you not have more than one grocery store?
Well, so we have like one that's in town, and then we have like multiple that are about 30 minutes away. So, I mean, when I want to like drive, then I'll take the other ones. And when I just want to pick up something really quick, I'll go in town. But so, I mean, there are some options. If I want to get crazy,
some variety.
Right. If I want to drive all the way to Walmart, I can.
Look at you.
I know, right?
Truly being an author is glamorous life.
So glamorous.
So we are here, as our lovely people watching know, to discuss your new book, More Than Maybe, which just came out. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago now?
Last week. Oh my gosh, it's only been a week.
Time is a flat circle, truly.
It really is.
And I had like I actually reread the book this afternoon in prep for this, because I had read it in like bound manuscript form.
Right,
like,
a long time ago.
Probably over a year ago at least.
You had to be like one of the first people to read it.
I'm very good at bugging your publicist.
Yeah,
I have his email address and I take advantage of it. But I like reread it and it's like, oh my god, this book's been like, I feel like we've been hearing about it and talking about it for so long.
I think that's wonderful. You know what? Because at that point you're like, yeah.
Oh, you still there, Erin?
Oh, my thing just like delayed for a second. I'm there.
Okay, cool. You're freezing up a little bit, but we're going to be able to work through it. Because life, as we learned in More Than Maybe, is about perseverance and following your dreams.
Okay. If I need to, I can move it around.
Okay, cool. You're coming back to me now.
Right.
You're moving in freeze frame. It's actually a very Veda-like dance move.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but you're breaking up a little bit. And I want everyone watching to know that Erin and I did test this for like 15 minutes before we started the call, and it was going fine. Hopefully we'll get her back in a second. I see her making slowly a perplexed face. Okay, so we briefly lost Erin, but don't worry, she will be back. I'm sure she's just sorting out technical difficulties on her end. But while we wait for her, I can go over sort of the format of the event with all of you. If you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, you can comment on the video, and the comments will pop up for me to be able to see. And so if you have questions or anything like that you want to share with Erin, if you have questions for me, I guess you can ask those too. But we're here for Erin. Oh, she's back now, I think. So just ask those below, and we'll either answer them during the conversation or after we talk. Can you hear me?
Okay.
I can hear you again.
Okay. I think we're okay if I sit outside.
Okay, I can hear you better now. Your video's still a little slow, but I can hear you.
Okay.
So everyone just picture Erin in your favorite pose as we go through this. And we'll be great. There you go. There's the video. Yeah, just try to like pose in very screenshot-worthy things as we move.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So let's get started. I did print out the intro, but I have the questions on my phone because I was like taking notes as I reread. Most of them are just exclamation points, which aren't really helpful questions. But actually, first, can you just give us like the pitch for More Than Maybe?
So More Than Maybe is about two music nerds who have had a crush on each other for a really long time, in secret for about 3 years. And they finally get a chance to work together, and it's like the last 3 months of their senior year. And so they work together for class as a surprise, and then they also, through a series of events, start to find out that they have feelings for each other. And then they decide to partner up to save the dive bar that they work at.
Amazing. It's not going to start raining on you, is it?
No, but that was a big airplane that just went by. This is awesome.
Amazing. They can try to lend you some of their like transmission powers as they go past.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so first off, I promise I'm not trying to ask you like where you get your ideas, because I know that that's a hard question for writers to answer. But I'm curious, where did More Than Maybe come from, and like what made you want to tell this specific story?
More Than Maybe. Well, More Than Maybe came from Empire Records. So that is the movie that I've been obsessed with since I was a kid. And if you don't know it, it's like this 90s cult classic about these kids who work in a record store. And I always wanted to write a book about kids who work together. Like your first job is always kind of like a quirky cast of characters no matter where it is. And so I wanted to write a book that felt like Empire Records. So I wanted something that had its own soundtrack, something that brought together all these kids, their first job, and then also I wanted them to kind of like all band together to try to do something. So in this case, they're going to save the dive bar that they work at, but in Empire Records, they save a record store. So,
I mean, it tracks. It carries.
Right. I originally thought about doing a radio, like a radio station, and that fell apart pretty quick when people were like, do kids even like work at radio stations? Is that even like a thing anymore? And
aren't most of them publicly funded at this point?
right, exactly. Like, are they all like NPR nerds? Which, I mean, that would be great for me, but doesn't really make for much of a story. So, yeah, that fell apart. So we went with the dive bar instead.
I love the dive bar in it. I like most of my first jobs were working at restaurants and bars, so I was like, yes, this is me. And if you do want to read an NPR book, The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon comes out next year or the year after that, and you get your fix there too.
I know. Rachel is pretty much a rock star for everything that I think is amazing she writes about. And I'm like, oh, yes, thank you. It's like I needed somebody else to write that story for me.
Yeah, just some of the excess ideas that like don't quite fit in your brand. Just like pass them off to Rachel.
I just wanted to read it. So I'm so glad that she decided to just write it for me because I want to read that story.
I feel like there are books where it's like, I don't want to write this, but I would love somebody else to. I'd love to experience it.
Yeah.
And usually people are like, well, then you have to write it yourself. It's like, well, sometimes you can get your friends to do it for you. And that's easier.
That is so much easier. And you know what? And then they get paid for it. And you're like, hey, good for them.
Right, and you still get paid for your own book, so everyone's happy.
Right, it's just full circle, perfect.
So did you have a first like high school job that had that sort of quirky cast of characters?
I had lots of jobs in high school. I worked at an ice cream shop for my first job when I was 14.
Nice.
Doing soft serve. But after that, I ended up working at a country club that had a bar and had like golf outings and weddings and all that. And there was a definite quirky cast of characters. Like there's kids from like 3 or 4 different high schools, college students, like older guys. And it was the greatest. Like I loved the different ages and getting to know people and just like, I mean, you don't run into those people at school necessarily. Yeah. Jobs bring different people from different walks of life in together. So, I definitely based some of that. Like Veda has this drink and everyone's like, this is such a specific drink, but she does like lemonade with maraschino cherries. Mm-hmm. And she has that all the time. And that was like my drink all the time when I worked at the country club. Like I'd show up, I'd pour in my cherries and my lemonade. And that's like what I had every single time. And so that was like my one little thing I slid in there for Veda was like, you're going to be your snack now. I'm lending it out to you.
That's really funny because that was actually one of my questions later.
Oh, really?
Was if you had because I worked at like some quick service, but then did a lot of like waitressing sort of through high school and college at like bar, restaurant sort of things. And that's like a very visceral thing. It's like, okay, this is what you snack on. This is like the weird put together garbage meal or garbage drink put together for yourself. Like I did a lot of Shirley Temples.
Yeah.
For what I was living on, and then just like bread. Yeah. Just handfuls of bread.
Yeah, like rolls that you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Totally. That's what I mean. We would sit in the back and just like because you put like rolls and bread baskets and things out to the table, so we'd like sit there back in the putting like squeezing butter packets onto rolls. And just, like, eating them. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Or like even the worst one. This is like even more horrifying now than it was already pretty horrifying then. But like the leftover French fries off of plates when they come back to the kitchen.
No.
It seems like maybe your place was too classy for that sort of behavior.
It was definitely not too classy for that, but I can say that I didn't do that, but I'm not judging you because...
Oh, listen, I didn't do it either. My mom watches a lot of these videos, so I, of course, did nothing like that.
We really want to know what happened with this pandemic, and we can all trace it back to these lazy French fries.
You could trace this pandemic back to any restaurant dishwasher. I worked at a restaurant once where they had a hookah bar upstairs, and the dishwashers used to take hits of the hookah before they sent it up.
Nice.
I was just like, man, even if I wanted to do hookah, now I never would.
But see, now you see, like, that's the kind of people you meet at work. Like, they're not necessarily people who you would end up, like, picking to be your friend, like, in gym class or whatever.
Oh,
but
yeah.
then, you're kind of forced to work with them, and then they become your friends kind of, like, through work. And that's the beauty of it, yeah.
Do you have a favorite, like, quirky side character from the dive bar?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, all of them are so, like, real to me. I know that Bearded Ben gets a lot of love from people. They like his Captain Hook mustache, and his whole, like, banjo playing aesthetic.
Sure.
I always loved Kazi. I get a lot of grief about Kazi because my editor early on was like, we've had some readers who are a little concerned because you make fun of Kazi being gluten-free and gluten intolerant. And she was like, I try to tell him that you're celiac or you have celiac. And so that, you know, like you can relate to that. And so that's why I love him. Cause I'm like, I'm basically making fun of myself whenever I make fun of Kazi, but I think people think I'm just making fun of, you know, dreadlocked, gluten intolerant people who work at Whole Foods, when really that's like basically me. And so
you're mostly making fun of the dreadlocks in the Whole Foods and like poking fun of the gluten.
Right, exactly. And hey, if I could have dreadlocks, I would. I promise. But I've never been able to pull it off. So
that's fair. It's a lot for a white girl to manage. I think.
Yeah. So, but I would love to work at the Loud Lizard and work with those guys if they were real, which they are in my head, but
yeah.
If they were real and real.
Everything, it's a pandemic. Anything that can be real, that you want to be real right now. As far as you haven't been very far in months, it could be real. It's just like a mile further than you travel right now.
This could be happening right now. I mean, Phil could definitely be like under the radar, still opening up the Loud Lizard for people. And he's just like, you know, put your masks on and show up. It's fine.
Yeah. Or even like the silent disco. If you did like a super socially distanced silent disco outside, there's a possibility there.
That would be anticlimactic for Luke and Veda, but for everybody else, that would be good.
I think it could still be. There was a video going around a while ago of socially distanced salsa dancing, where the couple had like a very long cord that they held between them and kept taut the entire time. It was very sexual.
Yeah. I'm gonna find this.
You should look it up
when I'm done. Yeah.
Well, it very much would be one of those like, I can't touch you, but we're dancing, but we're 6 feet apart.
But we're maintaining eye contact.
Oh, the eye contact is very important.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's for book. I know you got book 3 kind of going, but for book 4 and 5, you can add those little details in there.
Yeah, I might have to. You know, we're like all, you know, authors are all kind of like, do we write about the pandemic or not? You know, where are we at with that? So, I mean, eventually I may have to address it at some point, in which case I'm definitely going to try to do like some socially distanced salsa dancers.
Perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You don't need to thank me in the acknowledgments, but you should probably thank them at least.
I should. I'll put a little footnote in there for you, okay? I'll be like, and for Amanda. Thanks.
That's all I've ever wanted is a footnote for me in a book.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I have like my little bookshelf collection of the books that have my name like on them or in them, and like acknowledgments. So like I've got a couple of back cover blurbs, and that'll be my first footnote, I think.
Yeah.
So that'll get its own shelf. It'll be great.
Okay. A glass frame.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to talk about is that this is really like an introvert love story. Yeah. Which I feel like we don't see a lot of in YA, partially because like people are often drawn to the sort of extroverted, outgoing characters. But these guys were so much more internal than you often see. What did you like about writing characters that were sort of that internally motivated, or did it present challenges in sort of moving the story forward at all?
You know, it wasn't challenging per se, just because I'm super introverted. And so I felt like these are two characters who I could really relate to. Clay and Annie, who are like country music stars and go on stage. I can't relate to that. That's not my jam. I'm not going to ever do that. So Luke and Veda, I definitely related to. And early on, a lot of people kind of gave me grief about Luke, you know, saying like he's too whiny and, stuck in his head all the time. And he doesn't, he's spoiled because he doesn't want to be a superstar. And I was just like, he's just introverted. He just he's an introverted, soft soul. Like, you just don't understand. So Luke has always been pretty easy for me. Veda kind of hid from me for a while. And actually, until I got to know Meg, her best friend, I kind of had to do like this whole weekend experiment. Like my editor was like, I need to know more about Veda. We need more Veda. So I like took a weekend and like did a whole background on Meg. And because of Meg, she's like super outgoing and just like kind of brings out Veda and like brings her out of her shell. And so then Veda just came alive then, through Meg. So so that was a little bit easier, but she was kind of hard at the first. She was kind of just super goal oriented and didn't want to talk to me about Luke.
Yeah. To be fair, she doesn't want to talk to anyone about Luke.
She doesn't. She's just like super, super to herself about it. And that took a while, but she finally came out. And I think I think it worked out okay. Just took a little longer.
I would think so. I think it's pretty personally. So
yeah.
Awesome. Let me just. I put a passcode on my phone like 6 months ago, and I've regretted it ever since. But I don't know how to turn it off, so it takes like longer now for me to pull my notes back up. So let's talk music, because music's like a huge theme of this book. So for Luke and Veda, music is kind of like a sanctuary. And I love how it's different in that way from You Be Mine, like you mentioned before, where like so much of the music, like the actual music is a huge part of it, but so much of it for Clay and Annie is the performing and the sort of sharing of music. And how did you sort of approach the characters differently in that relationship to music? Or was it sort of a thing where it's like that was much more true to your own experience, so it just came easier?
Hold on, say the last part again, because my rooster just crowed while you were saying that, and I didn't hear the last part. Sorry.
Honestly, the rooster probably did a better job of phrasing it than I did. How did you approach that differently? Like the sort of more music in the soul as opposed to performing music feeling between your characters? Or was it just like, that's how you interact with music, so it came really easily that way?
Yeah, I mean, it is actually really how I interact with music. I don't create music, so I can't say that, I can't speak to like Luke. You know, I've always been somebody who like writes song lyrics, and, you know, I have notebooks full of song lyrics and keeping track of them and everything. So as far as like words go, that's always been me. But I also danced for 11 years. And so I always definitely, like Veda, like internalized the music and just like super felt it inside of me. And it kind of was like this outlet for me. And, you know, I would be in my room, you know, like listening to music and dancing to it and just kind of like wearing myself out on it. And that's how I dealt with things. So I definitely was the internalize and then, you know, perform it out person. But I related to Veda in the way that she was like, I don't need to perform it for other people either. You know, like both of them were content to just keep it to themselves. You know, like they wanted to express themselves. They were okay if other people saw it, but they didn't need it. And I think that's kind of how I always was. That I just didn't need it. I didn't need other people to see it to enjoy it myself.
Yeah. That's awesome. I feel like talking about how like people didn't sort of understand like why Luke was like keeping this to himself is the same sort of conversation I have with like, so my husband is super introverted and I'm very extroverted.
Yeah.
And so we have that same sort of back and forth. It's like, well, why don't you want to like do this and do this? It's like, well, but I'm doing this for me.
Right.
Like I'm pretty sure right now, once he finishes work for the day, he's going to do math problems for fun because he likes to make his brain work better.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
I've never had an instinct for that, even if math was performative.
Yeah.
But it's still, I don't know, it's just so interesting to me that like the sort of, you have in what seems like between your two books kind of similar ideas of like music means a lot to these characters, but the way that the characters approach them are so very different, but they're paired so well to each other. I don't know, I like it.
Yeah.
Good work.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm into it. And I think it also like gives that outlet for, you know, people reading it. Like you might approach whichever way you approach, you might understand a little bit better. But they're both still great.
Well, and I think it kind of validates that too. You know, like it now the wind's blowing. I think it kind of validates the idea that like you don't have to perform it in order for it to be real. And I think that sometimes people think that like that, you know, unless you show other people, then maybe you're not that good at it. You know, I'm trying to, like Veda was talking about dancing, and she kind of said like, you know, she had thought that maybe she would go and participate in like try out for this dance troupe in Detroit that was like some, you know, higher class one, and she decided just not to do it because she wanted to dance for herself. And I think that just kind of validates, like, it doesn't mean that she wasn't good enough. It just means that it just wasn't something that she needed. You know, it doesn't mean that your husband couldn't be a mathematician. It just means that he doesn't need other people to sit there and go like, you're right, this is really good math. Like he just enjoys it for himself sometimes, you know, working out the problems. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And like I said, I don't think that we see that a lot in YA, particularly like things are often so like performance and competition focused and sort of engaging with an audience focused, that to see people like teens just be able to enjoy something for themselves is really cool. And I think, like you said, really validating for the teen readers who like maybe don't want to put their life on display, but want to enjoy certain hobbies or talents for themselves.
Yeah, just try it out. I mean, that's what being a teen is about, you know, like just testing out the waters and seeing what you're good at and what maybe you just enjoy. I think a lot of adults have hobbies, and teens just every time that they show interest in something, they're kind of pressured to be amazing at it or just quit it altogether. And I think that, adults do things all the time that they suck at, and nobody tells them that they can't because, they're just interested in it. Like, I knit. I'm terrible at knitting. I can only make scarves, but nobody's going to sit there and be like, well, you can't do that anymore,
Yeah. Also, scarves are great.
Right. Who doesn't need a scarf, right?
Yeah, I would rather have a scarf than a sweater generally, because sweaters can get itchy when they're hand knitted sometimes.
Just keep piling on the scarves. That's all you need.
You have enough scarves, you've got a sweater.
Right, exactly. Just kind of like pin them together.
Exactly, you're fine. Right. When I first learned to knit, because I knit a little bit in college, I got very good at casting on and casting off because I never really learned past that. But I would make like very long, skinny scarves.
Yeah.
They couldn't really figure out how to make anything wide.
Just wrap it around 75 times.
Yeah, which was a very early, 2010s look anyway. So
it totally was. Yeah.
Like, look at me, I'm Lizzie McGuire. Here we go.
Right. I was gonna say Avril Lavigne, but I think that she was more like the tie, not the.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. But listen, you can be an Avril or a Lizzie, which I think is the point of your two books when you put them next to each other.
Yes, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be our next hit BuzzFeed quiz. Which 2000s pop sensation are you? And it'll just be you have to pick one of those two options. It's a very short quiz.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's what's her name? Oh my gosh, forget it. I just can't believe Miley Cyrus.
Ooh.
Oh,
we went two different directions there.
There's actually a lot more than we're thinking about.
All right, so for those of you watching, if you have other pop stars that you would like to have comped to either You'd Be Mine or More Than Maybe, feel free to pop them in the comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We love to hear more pop star names.
I'll just match them in. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll toss them in there. So you talked a bit about writing songs and how you've sort of always done that. Is that something you approach differently than writing novels, or did they just sort of come out of the same place?
That's a good question. Kind of the same place. Like when I started writing songs, like when I wrote in You'd Be Mine, it was purely by accident. I never intended for the song to be in the book ever. So the first song I wrote was Coattails, and I wrote it just as part of the book because I needed to know, Annie was pissed at Clay, and I needed to know, how that came out. She's the songwriter, and so she wrote the song. And then I intended to take it out and then just, write the scene. But then I forgot to take it out, and so now I'm writing songs.
And now this is your whole life.
This is who I am now. So in that way, and then when it came to More Than Maybe, I tried not to write Luke's song, his first song. I was like, I'm not going to write it. I'm just going to talk about it and then just skip it. And then I got about, I think I had one draft done, and my editor was looking for something. I can't even remember what now. Oh, maybe the title. We were trying to figure out a title.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, You'd Be Mine came out of the song You'd Be Mine. And so maybe I just need to write Luke's song and then I can get a title. And so I sat down and I wrote his song, and it took me all day, and I didn't get a title out of it. And I guess I kind of write songs to figure out things in the story, and then they just end up staying in there. I guess it's kind of more just an experiment of me getting into the character's brain.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
So, if the character's a songwriter, then I have to write one of their songs in order to see how they feel about something. So You'd Be Mine, I needed to write it to see how Annie was feeling about her feelings for Clay and the juxtaposition of her, tragic parents. And, Break for You that Luke wrote, I had to get in his brain at that point in the story and just see how is he feeling about things. He kind of alludes to feelings for Veda, but he's so introverted and quiet that even when you're inside his head, he doesn't really flat out say it for a long, long time. I mean, it's the slowest of slow burns. And so, and you don't actually get the song until the end. So it's even worse for the reader, because I'm just wow, you really have no idea how much he's pining for. But hopefully after you guys read it and get to his song, maybe you'll go back and be oh, so when he was writing it at this point in the story, this is how he was feeling. So it's more of just an experiment for me to be what are they all about right now?
Yeah, no, I love that. So were you guys considering Break for You as the title at some point?
We did, and I don't know why we didn't go with that. I honestly couldn't tell. We had like 75 titles.
Sure.
I kept trying to do like song titles and like real songs, not like my songs, but
hey,
like,
your songs are real songs.
Songs that people would recognize.
Sure.
And none of them were really working out. And then we ended up going with More Than Maybe. And then actually I ended up like afterwards adding More Than Maybe into Luke's other song as one of the lines. So it was kind of sneaky like that. Like I meant to do it all along.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's super deliberate.
Yeah. I think it was something else that had maybe in the line, and I was like, oh, we're gonna make it More Than Maybe, and we're gonna bring it all full circle.
Squeeze it in there.
Genius.
It's like when someone says the title of the movie during the movie. Like everyone's just much happier when it says said specifically.
Yeah, everyone's just like, oh, thank God, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, it's like a sneeze that you like haven't quite managed to do yet. Otherwise, just, you need to get it out there.
Like, what are we even doing here? So that part.
I mean, I know I would have closed the book on one of the song pages, of which I would have only had like a page and a half left if the name had not been mentioned.
Right.
I'd be like, I don't care what happens in the epilogue. I'm done. Erin's dead to me. Cutting it off.
Yeah. So thank goodness I did that.
Yeah. Otherwise, this would be a very uncomfortable conversation.
We may not even be having it.
It would just be you and the rooster.
He's quiet.
I shouldn't suggest that. That would get so many more views than I'm going to get. If you was you in conversation with a rooster, like, my God.
It's just me and my rooster out here in Michigan.
Yeah, talking about books. Yep. So if you guys would rather have the rooster step in for me, mention that in the comments as well. And it's probably too late for me, but maybe for the event with Karen, you can switch the rooster in every now and again.
If you don't want best-selling author Karen McManus and you'd rather have Ranger Rick.
Yeah, listen, I admit I was the better candidate for substitution by Rooster, but it's too late now.
Maybe I could just step out. Maybe you can just interview him for me.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, we'll do that for book 3.
Okay, deal.
So where do your own musical taste sort of skew, and like what sort of stuff were you listening to in high school?
I was 100% a grunge kid.
Oh boy.
So, I mean, I grew up listening to singers and songwriters, like my parents influenced in that. My mom listened to a lot of country in the 90s, so I had some influence of that, you know, like a lot of Reba and Tim McGraw. But yeah, I was super grungy. I don't, most people, maybe if you're watching, you would know, but like in Chicago, there's a radio station called Q101, and it's like their alternative radio station. I actually like thanked them in my acknowledgments because it was like such a important radio station to me. Speaking of like people who don't listen to radio anymore, but like when I was in high school, you know, you sat there by your radio recording the radio to make your mixtapes and things. So I was just like super into grunge and alternative music. Yeah.
Amazing. And I can see that's really informed your personal style today.
Yeah. Yes. And everything I am. And luckily I was able to like still kind of use that influence in like the adults in the book, which now I'm starting to get towards the age of the adults in my YA. So definitely when people are like, what do you listen to? I'm like, probably more like what Charlie and Phil listen to than anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. Do you ever communicate in song choices like Luke and Beta do? Which is my favorite thing that Luke and Beta do, by the way.
I did a little bit. I found this thing that I had like made for my husband. Like you said, we met our first day, well, my first day of college, and started dating like pretty much right away. And,
adorable.
So I used to like back in college make like crafts and things like, you know, decoupage, super cool. And so I found this like slice of wood that I probably got at Michael's. And I had like decoupage, like little song lyrics on it, and like with our picture in the middle of it.
Oh my God.
I'm sure it was so important to him that I found it in my stuff. So, but I definitely did. I don't know if he did so much. We didn't have the back and forth, but I always did. I would make myself like mixes out of his CDs, so like when we were apart, I could like still listen to his music. But
nice.
I don't know if that means because I was going to miss him, I need to listen to music, or if I was going to miss his CDs. I'm not sure. So
hey, listen, either way, it clearly worked out.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're still together, so
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, something about the formula worked, no matter what it might be.
right, exactly.
Yeah, and listen, it's good, I think, for people to know that just because the person you love is not sending back song choices doesn't mean they love you any less.
Right. And we didn't have texting back then.
That's
we
true.
had
It was
instant
harder.
messenger, but there wasn't so much back and forth. You had to wait until you got like the email back from them. So
Right. You
It's
weren't
nice.
like texting YouTube links in the 90s.
right. It would be like I don't even know if they had like YouTube. So I mean, it would be like a totally different experience if I wrote this book taking place in like 2000.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It would just be those three, it'd be Avril Lavigne and nothing else.
Right. And then it would be them waiting on the emails. They'd be like,
Yeah.
hey, did you log into the internet to check your email yet?
So if you guys think this is a slow burn now, imagine how slow the burn would have been.
They still wouldn't be together if it had been back in 2000.
Yeah, they'd have found each other. It just would have been like a 500-page novel.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But that'd be okay. I can get behind it.
Okay.
So let's talk, since you mentioned the parents, about, and it worked out because that was my next number question, about the parents in this book. Because I really do think that the parents are kind of the heart of the story, or rather like the relationship that Luke and Veda have with their parents and parent-adjacent people.
Yeah.
Both like the way that Luke deals with his family, but I mean, obviously the most sort of significant relationship that we focus on is Veda with her dad, Marcus, and her eventual stepdad, Phil. Can you talk a bit more about that and why you wanted to sort of focus on the parental relationships here?
Well, I think that parents get a bad rap in YA. They're always
Yeah.
either like kind of stupid, like sometimes you're reading a YA story and you're like, where are the parents? Like they're just running
Who
around.
lets you
the
do
house
this?
at night, don't come home for days or whatever, and you're like, where are these parents? Or they're just like super cruel or something,
Right.
So I wanted to write parents who felt real to me. Like I love the parents in Easy A, and I've talked about them before. They're like my ideal. And so when I wrote Luke's parents, I really wanted them to be like that, So Charlie and Iris are kind of like my Easy A parents. There's a lot of contention between Phil and Luke, or not Phil, Charlie and Luke, as far as like what their goals are. Charlie is a former punk rocker, and he thinks that his son should want to be just as famous as he was. Like why would you waste this potential? And Luke is introverted and doesn't feel that way. So I think you've got that, but I also never wanted anyone to think that Charlie didn't actually care. And I think that comes across, like that ultimately, especially by the end, like he's a good dad and he just really loves his kids and he would do anything for them. He just wanted more, or thought that he wanted more for them. Veda, I think what I wanted to show with Veda is she's got a wonderful mom. But I also wanted to show that like sometimes you only have one parent, or sometimes you have two parents, but things are kind of, tricky between your two parents. And I wanted to show that like there are other adults that can be in your life, as a kid, and to be just as important as a parent. They don't have to be like your real dad or your real mom necessarily. They can mentor you, they can love you, and as long as you're being loved, that's all that you need. And so for Veda, like she says, like I didn't need a dad, I just needed Phil. Like that's what she wanted. She wanted just this man who loved her unconditionally and wanted something for her, and wanted to protect her future, and but also like just like loved her. Like I maybe I said that already, but I think that he's such a special character because he's just like he didn't have to be there for her. Even with her mom not there, he still was going to be there for her, and he's kind of there for all the kids at the Loud Lizard. And that's what I love about him is like I think at one point he says like I haven't fired anyone yet. Like he's never actually going to fire anyone. He never actually wants to call the police on anybody. He doesn't want to cause problems. He just wants to give everybody a place to be and grow up and feel safe and just know that he's always going to have their back. And I think that every kid needs an adult like that in their life, whether it's their parent or somebody else. I think that's what kids are just looking for. And I wanted that to be clear that like, just because they aren't your biological parent doesn't mean you won't have somebody like that.
Yeah.
There's good people out there.
Yeah, No, for real. I definitely teared up over some of the Phil scenes today. It's like lying, so I was on my couch like with the cat. I was like, oh, he's such a good guy. I did, by the way, try to wear a dad shirt for this in honor of Phil.
Oh yeah.
Even though
he would dig it for sure.
Yeah, like I know he's a bit more like, you know, sort of Red Wings jersey situation, but I wasn't gonna wear a Red Wings jersey, even for you, Erin. So this was my compromise.
I'm originally from Chicago, so actually it would be the Blackhawks anyways, but
still bad.
Okay. Still
bad.
Yeah, but yeah, it's summertime, so he would be all about the palm trees, I think.
That's true. Yeah, no, I love the scene where he, like, when Veda's, like, crying and he has to go to work and he tells her, like, hey, like, I'm not leaving because of you. Like, then it, like, lays it out so clearly that he needs her to understand that he's just leaving because he has to go to work. And, like, for a kid that's been abandoned so much, like, he's just such a good guy. Great work.
A good guy. Yeah, that scene, when I wrote it, made me cry. Every time I read it after that to edit it, it made me cry. When I heard it on the audiobook, it made me cry. Phil just makes me cry, man. Yeah.
And if you also want to cry over the audiobook, you can get that through Libro FM, your one-stop shop for independent bookstore-based audiobooks. Same as any other streaming service, but you support people like us, which we always like. Yeah, good stuff. Libro.fm. That's my brief commercial break. That was my podcasting, like, commercial segue.
I don't think people know about it. They only hear about the name brands that I'm not going to get into. And more than maybe won an audio award. I mean, it's just so well done. My sister was actually just messaging me this morning, like, you're right. It's really amazing. And
yay.
They do such a good job, the narrators. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and audiobooks are great now, too, because, like, I know a lot of people are maybe listening to less listened content because they're not driving to work and things like that. But it's a great way to force yourself to take a walk around the neighborhood if you can do that safely where you are.
Right. Or, like, even if sometimes I'll do it when I'm, like, cleaning the house and I don't want to because it, like, forces me to do a good job because I want to keep listening. So I'm like, I'll take my time on this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you trick your brain into, like, actually appreciating it.
Whatever you can do to trick your brain into being happy right now, like,
that's right.
Go for it. And audiobooks are a great choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Let me look at my list again. Stupid passcode. Hate it. Oh, it'll be safer. No one else touches my phone anymore. Jokes on all of them. So also, while I'm pulling up some of our last questions, if anyone has any questions for Erin, if we did such a great job answering all your questions already, that's also totally fine. But feel free to put them in the comments on the Facebook post or the YouTube channel. Wherever you're watching from, they'll show up on my screen, so I'll be able to pass them along to Erin. If they're mean, I will not pass them along to Erin. But no one who's watching this is unkind. So throw your things out there. And there's sometimes a little delay between when you put your comment in and when I see it. So if we don't answer it right away, don't panic. It'll pop up in a minute or so. So actually, the last thing I was going to ask you was about your bar snack of choice. But we already talked about that. Can you tell us a bit about your next projects or anything else you can talk to us about? Read that sort of thing?
Yeah. So I wrote my third book already. It's done. It's turned in, but it doesn't come out until next fall. It's called Never Saw You Coming. And it is Meg's story. So Meg, who is Veda's best friend, she finds out, and this isn't a spoiler, you find out in like the first page, that she finds out that everything that she's been told her whole entire life is a big old lie. So she finds out that her dad is not actually her dad, and her real dad had passed away like 20 years before. Not 20 years, that wouldn't be right. 18 years before.
Yeah.
And so she finds out that she decides she's going to travel, you know, in more than maybe she talks about going on a gap year. Well, she kind of decides to take her gap year up to the UP to meet her father's family. And so she does that, and finding this out and finding out all these lies about her childhood and who her real parents were, she starts to kind of struggle with her faith and the things that she believed her whole life. And so she's got that going on. And then she meets Micah, who is this 19-year-old former pastor's kid. And his dad is in jail. He's in prison because he used to be a pastor who swindled his parishioners and had some inappropriate relations with some of the women in the church. And
that'll get you.
If you're listening to it and you think like, man, Erin, that sounds heavy. It kind of is. Now that I say it all out loud like that. But also it's Meg, and she's all goodness and light. And this relationship that she has with Micah is like pretty much my most favorite relationship I've written so far. They're just super cute. He's kind of like this grumpy, like Nick from New Girl kind of guy. You know, my editor and I talk all the time about his like grumpy eyebrows that Meg always talks about. And then Meg is, like I said, all goodness and light. And so she's kind of like the Jess character in this. And their relationship is just like super cute. So yeah, I'm excited. So excited for everybody to read it. A little bit nervous, but mostly excited.
Sure.
So yeah. Next fall.
I'm very excited. I can't
Okay,
believe
thank
we
you.
wait till next fall.
I know. Stupid pandemic.
I know. Every time. But at least
Yeah.
we have more than maybe now to hold
You
us
have more
over.
than maybe. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So, and then there's one little tiny thing I can't tell you guys about, but you'll find out tomorrow. I just can't tell anybody about it before then. It's very tiny, but it's a super fun surprise. I mean, by tiny, I just mean by like, I don't know how to say it. I can't.
This is
I'll
not
give
just telling
something
you
away.
that Brad Pitt is starring in the movie of You Be Mine.
No, there's no movie. That would be huge.
That'd be like big. Although I would actually want the guy who played the country music love interest in the Hannah Montana movie.
Oh yeah.
He play.
You know what? He kept showing up on my like Pinterest when I was first writing that book. Like I'd be like, "Who is this guy?"
I think he's MacGyver now, like in the new series that CBS is doing.
Oh
Yeah.
He would have been perfect back then. Now he's
Right now he's like 30 and it's a little aggressive, but
yeah.
So not that, but something still exciting and fun. Yay!
Yeah, something exciting and fun, and I can tell you tomorrow. Oh, I'm so excited that we can finally tell about it. So, yeah,
Yay.
Tomorrow it'll be a bright spot in the pandemic.
Good. We should watch your Twitter for that.
Yeah, my Twitter. I'll put it all over. I think
Fair
as soon as they give us permission to say something. Yeah.
Yay! Awesome. People are saying congrats. And the Nature of Pages said earlier that your cat playing fetch is the best, and that they are gluten and dairy intolerant, and thought that the Kazi stuff was hilarious. So
good.
we got at least one who's
Thank you
into
for
it.
understanding. I think anybody else who is gluten or dairy intolerant is like, oh yeah, I totally understand. So at least it's everybody else who's like, oh no, that's offensive. I'm like, no, it's real life.
Yeah, this is your daily danger.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Great. Is Never Saw You Coming based on a song title? Is that something we're allowed to know yet?
No, but somebody told me that it is in the song, a Taylor Swift song called State of Grace, that it repeats Never Saw You Coming. So I think that's where my editor came up with it, because she's the one who came up with the title. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, if you listen to that song, it's actually perfect for Meg.
Oh, yay.
So
just
State of Grace by Taylor Swift. Yeah. So it kind of just like in a meandering way relates, but the song is perfect for it. So go and listen to State of Grace by Taylor Swift if you want to know what Meg and Micah are like.
Perfect. That'll be everyone's preview to like get you through until next fall when they can read the actual book. Just loop that song.
Just loop it for the next year and a couple months.
What could go wrong?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we go, do you have a favorite song off of Folklore?
Oh, Amanda, that is so hard.
I know. I'm sorry.
I listen to it on repeat. I think I go back and forth. So originally it was Exile. With Bon Iver. I love that it has like his voice in it, and
it's
beautiful.
such a good podcast of hers.
So yeah, that was my original one, and I was like, ooh, this one. But then I really started to listen to hold on, My Tears Ricochet.
Yeah.
And then somebody had talked about online how it's actually Taylor's song about the whole controversy of what happened with, was it BMG?
Yeah.
And so then when I knew that and I listened to it again, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a genius song.
Right.
So that's my new favorite, and I rock out to it. Because originally I was like, this is kind of sad. And then when I listened to it, knowing that in my mind, I was like, actually, it's amazing.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's definitely my new favorite. Although I love them all. My daughter listens to Betty on repeat, and just like bleeps out the swears herself while she's listening to it.
I think she and I as a kid would have gotten along very well.
Yeah. She just kind of goes like during that part. And she also loves Mirror Ball. I mean, we've just been like playing the whole thing straight up.
Yeah.
The only one
the whole thing loops so well. There's like no bad songs on it that you have to skip.
There aren't. And you know, even if you do skip it in like 5 minutes, you're like, wait, I do want to listen to that song. Actually, I'm going to go back to it.
Yeah, this was clearly designed to be like a whole thing.
Yeah, it was such a
I'm
gift.
very deep in Last Great American Dynasty, but like they're all amazing.
Oh yeah, did you know about the real story from that one too?
Yes.
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 I
it's
just
just,
read
like,
about that.
So,
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah, I'm like,
Mhm.
that's what I want my life to be. I want to buy a house that was owned by a former socialite who did the best at being a person. I love it.
I think there's like multiple adult romance authors who have been on Twitter who are just like, and now I'm going to write that book. And again, like what we were saying before with Rachel Lynn Solomon, who you should also read her new book out. But I'm like, please, I want you all to write that book, and then I want to read it. I don't want to write it, but I really want to read that book. So
yeah, and I want to read like every iteration of that book. I want to read like the lesbian romance, like the he wasn't dead after all.
Right.
The the women's fiction where she just finds herself. I want all of it.
All of them, every last bit of them, and then the original. Just like rewrite the original. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted Chanel Cleaton to do the original because she's my favorite historical romance, women's fiction adjacent writer. Yeah, if you haven't read her, she's magnificent. I started reading her like in romance proper, but her most recent few books have been sort of that women's fiction romance overlap. Reese Witherspoon picked her for her book club, and she's amazing. I'm going to quickly open Facebook on my phone to make, because I think that some of the comments I've seen like come in recently are from like 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to make sure I'm not missing anything before we log off that people are saying now, so that it's not like we hang up and everything.
Like, I asked you something already.
Yes, Lucas Till is the name of the person. Thank you, David Joseph, for mentioning that actor.
That's the one from the Hannah Montana movie?
Yes.
Not Hannah Montana. Was it Hannah Montana, or was it the long?
It was Hannah Montana.
But he was a cowboy.
Yeah.
I've only seen pictures. I've never seen the movie. Now I feel like I need to.
Oh my God. Erin, you have to, there's a dance in it.
There is?
Yes, the hoedown throwdown.
Oh, I missed out so much. I must have been like just the wrong age during that.
I mean, I think I was like a junior or senior in high school, which was already a little too old. And I know I am a little younger than you, so you probably like being cool in college with your like college boyfriend living your life. Yeah,
we were super cool for sure.
with your wood burning crafts.
So our wood with our decoupage and wood burning, and then our grow up to have roosters. We're just like super hip.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, so there were some questions on here, so I'm glad that I checked.
Okay.
So David Joseph, which is DJ, is signing it as, and I don't know if that's the DJ that we know or if it's a different DJ. But he wants to know, how has your writing process changed since You Be Mine?
Oh my God, You Be Mine was so much easier. Not to sound like whiny about it.
Is that like second book syndrome style?
I think so. You Be Mine, I didn't even have an agent for when I wrote it. So, I mean, it was like the fifth book I had written in like 3 years. And I was like, literally just like, I'm just going to write whatever I want to read because nobody else wants to read anything I'm writing. And so I wrote it, and it kind of just like flowed out, and I didn't really care what other people thought. And then, it was wonderful. People loved it and they embraced it, and I got an agent and it sold, and, Wednesday Books was incredible with it. And so, that was so easy. And then More Than Maybe was so hard because of the second book syndrome, I think. You Be Mine hadn't been released yet. And so I had all that pressure of like not knowing what people were going to think, what readers were going to think about my style, and, song, music inclined books. I mean, sometimes that's not really everybody's thing, everybody's jam, if you want to be like, pun intended. But so that was really hard because I think I tried like 17 different iterations in the beginning. There was like a bank robbery at one point. I had,
oh boy.
Like the meet cutes were out of this world. Like there was like a bank robbery meet cute. There was like a, Luke's dad is an abusive police officer meet cute. I mean, none of them sound cute, but they were like these weird.
They don't, but I'm intrigued to find out how they exist in this world.
It's kind of like, like where you have like alternative universes. Like it was kind of just like every possible iteration. I put these two in, and the only constant was Luke and Veda. And then
you have like all the fan fictions of this book already written in your own drafts.
Yeah. And the only person who's ever read them is my agent, who was like, this is interesting. So I finally settled on the whole dive bar thing, and I'm so glad I did. I love it so much. But yeah, it was a lot harder. And then the third book was super hard to write because it's some very heavy material that
Sure.
I personally relate to with the whole, church aspect of it. And that's scary stuff to put out into the
Yeah.
world and know it's going to be judged. So the more I write, the more it gets intimidating now that there's more people reading. And I feel like
Yeah.
I have readers now who are kind of invested and I don't want to disappoint them. So that's always in the back of your mind.
Yeah. Would it help if I said you wouldn't and you won't?
Oh, it does.
We're good. This is no more self-doubt. Get that out of here.
I just need you to come. Can you just come and move into my house and just sit next to my desk and do that?
I mean, I can't because of the pandemic, but otherwise.
Oh, well. Okay.
If you have a separate house, I can quarantine in for 2 weeks first.
That's true. Okay.
I'll live with the rooster first.
You can stay above the garage. I'll just make a little mother-in-law suite for you.
Perfect. That's all I've ever wanted, is to live above a garage in Michigan.
There you go.
The dream. So Kathleen Glasgow wants to know if there are scenes in the book that didn't make it in.
I don't.
Besides all the various fan fictions, of course.
I mean, yeah, right, exactly. What I just said, the bank robbery didn't make it in. That was nixed. The
Can't imagine why.
Cross-country road trip escaping from the abusive father, that was nixed. But I kind of mentioned this last week when I was talking with somebody, and that was that, Luke actually came from a different book. He was in this sci-fi trilogy that I had written, my first trilogy. And
nice.
That trilogy obviously went nowhere except for my shelf. But Luke Greenlee is just this. People who read it, the few my critique partners.
Yeah.
He was our favorite. He kind of stole every scene he was in. He was just this soft-hearted, blonde, British, gentlemanly kind of guy. And then when I met Veda, I was like, who you would be really good with? Luke Greenlee. He would just be your soulmate. And so I kind of stole him and plugged him into this story instead. So I didn't take anything out, but I definitely plugged him in. And
I love
he made
that.
The book, so
yes.
Yeah, it's his story.
That's perfect. Kathleen also wants to know how you come up with character names.
Well, Luke already had a name. So that came from that. I don't remember. Oh, Veda came from one of my former students.
Ooh.
She was just a little young 5s, and I hope her parents don't mind. But I just loved her name, and she was super precocious and wonderful. And then Greenlee, their last name, Luke's last name is Greenlee, and so is his brother Cullen, and their last name leads to the podcast The Grass is Always Greenlee. So
which I am obsessed with.
That
so
kind
good.
of worked out super well, so I'm glad that I
Yeah.
did that. Otherwise, I don't think I do know that when I wrote Iris, and that's Charlie's, well, that's Luke's mom. I was gonna say Charlie's name. I couldn't remember her name for the longest time. When you write a name in a book and then you just don't go back to it, and I couldn't find it, and so I had to dig and dig and dig, and I was like, oh yeah, Iris, Charlie and Iris, what a great name.
It's Control F, Mom, Luke.
Right. I just
Mom.
Mom. Where is she? Yeah. So Iris. But yeah. So students. Luke was also going to be one of our kids' names. So I mean, some people look in baby name books. Other people steal from the babies that they never had. I was like, oh.
Well, that's good because then you get to put them somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Let me just do my scrolling. Katarina Spears. Says congratulations on You Be Mine. It's at the top of their TBR pile.
Thank you.
A big pile. They say several other congrats in here. And DJ helpfully helped us out with the Lucas Till thing, which was great.
I'm so glad. I'm gonna look him up right when I get off here.
Okay, but then you do need to just YouTube search the Hoedown Throwdown.
Hoedown Throwdown.
I mean, honestly, at this point, I'm a little sad that Annie Mathers didn't do the Hoedown Throwdown.
Well, I'm feeling bad that I disappointed you. I had all those little You'd Be Mine shorts that I did in newsletters for the last 3 months. Where were you?
I know. You'll have to I know that you said you were done with those, but when you eventually write your Fitz and Casey adult romance,
I'll find.
It'll be and in the background, the Hoedown Throwdown was playing, and they hated it.
I could see Fitz 100% being hold up, my song is on, and just running out there hold on, you guys. They could play it at their wedding.
I mean, it's got a full line dance. Like Miley leads a full bar in doing this dance that she just seems to know.
It just magically comes out. No.
It's amazing.
Okay, I will look for it. And
Perfect.
All right.
So Erin is going to look up the Hoedown Throwdown, and everyone else who's watching, should be ordering Erin's books, More Than Maybe and You Be Mine. You Be Mine is out in paperback now, which is very exciting, with a beautiful cover.
Yep.
And I love how it matches More Than Maybe. Like, I obviously am obsessed with the original You Be Mine cover as well, but the matching set is also always fun.
They look so good together. When I got it and they were like, "This is gonna be your theme now for all your books," I was like,
"Oh!" And then you have a theme.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, and then you have to be like, "Well, you have to keep buying my books because I have a theme now."
So you can line them all up on your shelf.
Yeah. No one wants just one book of a theme. That's how like Pokemon's whole thing is.
Right. I mean, unless you want to have the original hardcover. It is.
I mean, you could do both.
You can, right, exactly. Line them up together anyway.
Yeah, and since that one's first, like it'll go on the end, so it won't mess up the interstitials.
Right, interstitials.
Yes. So everyone, if you go to the top comment on whatever you're viewing this on, you can find the link to buy More Than Maybe through the event link here. We still have signed copies here at One More Page with lovely book plates that I will be stealing one of for myself. So there's one less. But it's great. You Be Mine is great too. Like I said, paperback now, so you haven't read that one. Super great opportunity to pick it up. Erin, anything else you'd like to add before we go off the air?
I was just going to say that if you want a signed copy, those that you have at One More Page are the only ones I know of right now. So you can't order them from anywhere else. And I'm not just like sending them out right now.
Right.
Of the pandemic and things. So if anyone does want a signed copy, including like my family and friends from around here, you want to be contacting One More Page Books for them because they're the ones who have it, the exclusive right now on it.
Yes.
So,
we have very good shipping rates. We can ship in media mail for like $4 to anywhere in the country. And we do ship internationally as well. If there's anyone international watching this, it will cost you more than $4, but we will do it.
But you'll do it anyway. So yeah.
We'll do it anyway.
If you want some, that's where I'm going to point you to because I love it. Yeah.
Perfect. And if you've enjoyed this event from us at One More Page, we've got other events coming up over the next several weeks. I honestly don't remember any of them because there's so many of them coming up. But there's some really fun ones, and starting in August. So this is sort of our launch tab. We're doing Romance Bookstore Month. So lots of really cool romance events as well for those of you who are into that. It's really fun. We're doing a romance bookseller panel where just me and some of my coworkers just talk about the romances we love.
Oh, when?
I have it on my calendar because I had to put it there so I wouldn't schedule something over it. I mean, schedule something. I don't do anything anymore. That one is... When I get to it, it's going to be like really worth it.
I'm asking because I would definitely do that. And for those of you who don't know, I went to One More Page last year and did like a romance panel with a couple of other authors. And I just thought you guys did such a wonderful job. And while I was walking around, I bought like multiple books because you guys are so good at like being like, if you like this, this is what you want. And so, I mean, I would definitely listen to what you guys recommend.
Perfect. That one is on Thursday, August 13th at 7 p.m.
August 13th at 7 p.m. Everyone should come back and listen to that if you're interested in recommendations. For sure.
Yes, if you enjoy recommendations, that's what the whole thing's going to be. And Erin, you have another event coming up as well, yes?
Yeah, this Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be with Karen McManus, not my rooster. Karen and I are dear friends and have been for a long time, and so she is amazing and best-selling, and she's going to talk with me, which is, that's flattering, right? So that's going to be through Porter Square Books, which is another favorite of mine, and that's in Boston, and I don't have a link to that, but look for it. We'll get one.
Yes, I also love Porter Square Books, so great choices all around.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking with me, Erin, and thank you all for watching our event. It was great, and we'll see you all at the next one.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.
Ending broadcast.